Hello, welcome to the Temporal Waves, the astrology forecast for April 2024. My name is Molly. I am your astrologer. If you've been following me, you know that I focus my monthly general astrology reports on largely planetary aspects, and I try to include the wisdom of both traditional Western and Vedic astrology and really focus on where they converge or overlap. So before I get into the forecast for April, I just want to give a little anecdotal debriefing of the end of March because it can be interesting, right? When we reflect on we just had an eclipse. We had a lunar eclipse on March 25th, and we're in between these two eclipse portals. And I, without a doubt, believe that many of you watching and tuning in have been experiencing a lot of shifts, a lot of intensity, a lot of unexpected, potentially a lot of even aggressive energies because of the astrology that we are experiencing and the cosmic weather we're experiencing. April is a very intense month, and there's a lot of activity. There's a large celestial event, eclipse happening. There's also like a comet, a nova. There's a lot just astronomically going on, but I'm going to be really talking about through the lens of astrology, meaning how it affects human beings on the emotional, spiritual, even physical planes. So for me, I came to the mainland to deal with a mobile bus that I have, and as an astrologer, electing to do that between two eclipses in a Mercury pre-shadow period, which is the week or two before Mercury goes retrograde, which was today. I realized that Mercury pre-shadow is very real. Not only did I have some technical issues with my mode of transport, my chariot, which is a Mercury-ruled thing, but I had unexpected changes to my travel partner. The morning of the eclipse, she had family drama, very intense family drama. Her son called her with some very intense news. And, it was all in the emotional sphere of shadow relational stuff coming up and confessions, and then one confession led to another, and I'm not going to divulge all that here, but just knowing that it's like really bringing the shadows forward. Eclipses can show what was previously not visible, but it also obscures things as well. And it's very good to treat the period between eclipses with a lot of reverence, to treat eclipses themselves with a lot of reverence, because they're quite humbling. If we think of what was going on historically when an eclipse was occurring, it's a disruption to our biology. So animals, plants, and humans definitely report greater stress, and it's documented that they undergo greater stress during eclipses. Back in the day when they had no ephemeruses or knowledge of when these events were happening, you could see how it would be a very creepy, scary thing. Eclipses can bring a quickening of very intense events. And in the moment, it can be chaotic, but perhaps these are planting seeds for new chapters to open. Like they say, when one door closes, another opens. So just in the past 48 hours, there were at least 3 events back to back that myself and some friends encountered. One being I got locked and trapped in between 2 doors of a building. Totally innocuous, not intentional, but it was a very mercurial retrograde thing. It was a little scary, but luckily I wasn't there too long. Someone walked by who noticed and actually happened to know the owner of the building's number. Then shortly after that, I was with a friend, and they discovered a family home had been broken into, a tiny home was stolen, just very, very big, quite shocking, and unsettling events, right? I do believe these will all be resolved, but it's like this needing to be very aware and very vigilant to what you're doing and the environment around you. Mercury is in Aries, so people might be very aggressive, very short-tempered, impulsive, in addition to the confusion of a Mercury retrograde. So there's a Mercury retrograde creating delays and obstacles and mishaps, and then it's in Aries to top all that off. I'm just going to start getting into the transits now. So that can just add to fuel to the fire, so to speak. And Vedic understanding, Mercury is Gadanta, which will be coinciding with the eclipse. And this just means Mercury is essentially stressed out. In sidereal, Mercury will be transiting through Pisces. It's in its detriment and combust the eclipsed sun on the 8th. So we are in a time where if you're trying to do things that rely on precision, that rely on clear communication, that need a lot of efficiency, and that you're putting, like, there's a lot of pressure on, or you need it to be this like permanent big thing, just know that now is not the right time for that. Now is the time to maybe reconsider things, revise plans, go with the flow, connect more to your intuition, connect more to your spiritual practices, go more inward, and don't put the pressure on that external results right now, because more likely than not, you're going to have obstacles and delays. And yes, life goes on. We have to just carry on with retrograde. But just like me and my bus, it was like, okay, I'm going to go and do this responsibility. But then I was faced with delays. So give yourself a little more time. If you are going to have to go forth with certain plans, just give yourself that buffer zone. Mercury will turn direct on the 24th, but again, because we do have a pre-shadow, there's also kind of a post-shadow. So give yourself a buffer until like May, really, to not feel like you have to like make that deal and or make that final decision about something, because more likely than not, once the fog lifts in May, you might feel differently. You might have more information that you didn't have before, and you might just be on a totally different trajectory because we are in this eclipse portal. So let's go over the key events and planetary aspects of the month of April. So the main, obviously, event that I've been bringing up is the solar eclipse on April 8th, occurring in Aries tropical in the nakshatra of Revati, if you follow the sidereal zodiac, which is the last nakshatra. So eclipses, as I've mentioned numerous times, end chapters and open new ones. Revati is the nakshatra connected to spirituality, connected to endings, connected to the occult, connected to the hidden, and it might be a time of healing, really, for you, because the eclipse is not just with that combust Mercury, but also with Chiron, the wounded healer, the wounded warrior. And so there can be a lot of, I feel like towards the end of April, like really stepping into one's power and purpose. The end of April is a lot nicer energetically than the beginning, middle. And so I feel like, we have to go through this chaotic window sometimes to get things shuffled around and really humble us humans and what we think our plans are, to then have more clarity and be on the trajectory that hopefully is in our highest alignment. They say during eclipses, our actions are amplified in a sense. And so partying and gathering with unconscious beings might not be the best use of an eclipse. It might be a better time to go inward, to pray to whoever or whatever prayers, whoever you saying your prayers to. This is probably the best thing to do during an eclipse, to be reflective, to do acts of positive karma yoga, where you're doing things that make a difference, right? A positive difference. Those would be the best uses. So when is this eclipse? It's 11:07 a.m. Pacific, around 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, about an hour long. And be very aware during this hour of time. Just set that hour aside to be very conscious, very aware. If you're unconscious, that's when dramatic and I hate to say it, but even accidental kind of things can happen. So in Vedic tradition, they actually advise against having sex, eating meat, etc., consuming alcohol, etc., because there's just it's they're rajasic kind of things, and it can bring about more negative energy. So in general, they would say, abstain from sex during full moons, but especially during an eclipse. There is a ability for the body, I think, also abstaining from alcohol. It's like there's ability for possession in a sense because we have this alignment with the nodes, and the nodes are hungry ghosts. Rahu, the angle that the new moon and the sun will be aligning to, is the head of the dragon, right? The dragon's head. So it's a very unconscious wanting to consume unconsciously. So if you can resist that urge and really put that energy into, I don't know, anything else, really just going inward, that would be the best. So let's go over the major conjunctions of the month ahead. So starting off on April 3rd, Venus conjoins Neptune. This is the rose-colored glasses aspect. I actually have this aspect in my natal chart. I'm very familiar with it. It's very great for art and creativity and spirituality. Where it really struggles is seeing things for what they are, especially relationships. It can be an aspect where we overlook maybe red flags, or we sugarcoat, or really see what we want to see and aren't being fully honest with what's in front of us. And if you can say, the ability to do that really is great for imagination and creativity. I always tell people with this aspect, put that into your spiritual practice, your creative practice. Don't apply that to people, because people will let you down. So use that idealism for something more transcendent. On April 10th and 11th, we really, within the realm of the eclipse as well, we have Mars with Saturn. These are two malefics joining together in the sky. And there's no I don't know. I mean, there's a benefit, I think, to every planetary aspect, but I don't want to sugarcoat this one because it's pretty tense energy. It's the planet of aggression with the planet of boundaries. So we might see people really wanting to and we've been in this energy. They're conjunct right now, but they go exact around the 10th and the 11th, this conjunction. And I experienced this where I was in a town that I'm not familiar with, and I was in this kind of gallery space. It was a coffee shop with some other shops in it. And I was kind of just working on something on my phone. I don't even know, I might have had headphones in, but I was just kind of pacing around this coffee shop area. It was in this lobby, and there were other little rooms you could go off into. And I kept poking my head in one of the galleries. Apparently I did it 3 times. I wasn't aware. Twice was earlier in the day, and then later I was there again and I did it again. But an hour had passed or something where I was walking around another part of town. Anyway, this woman comes running out of the gallery what do you want? What are you doing? And she was so threatened by the fact that I had just popped my head in. And she was like, can I help you? And I was like, no, I'm just looking around. And then she followed me out where there were tables. And I said, did I do something wrong? I'm so confused right now. And she's like, well, you popped your head in. That was the third time. And I was like, wow, I didn't even realize. And I said, did I do a crime or something? Because she pulled her phone out and she started trying to take photos of me. And I've never had someone react to me with that much hostility. And, it's probably this Mars Saturn thing where people are just really ready to fight and ready to fight for their boundaries and their space. Nothing wrong with that, but when you take it too far, where it's screaming at someone who's that has no ill will or bad vibes or bad intention, just because you're almost like paranoid. That can be the energy of Mars with Saturn. It can also be where we have willpower to make steady progress towards our goals too. So that would be, I would say, like the positive of Mars with Saturn. There's a very militant kind of vibe of those two planets coming together. Jupiter conjoins Uranus. This is exact. I can't see because my head and face are in the way and my little orb. But I think it's April 17th where they're exactly conjunct. And I've been talking about this. We've had this aspect going on many months. And this is the innovations in technology that we're really seeing. And then with Mars conjoining Neptune, and also Uranus and Jupiter conjunct can be people organizing around similar belief systems. Mars with Saturn, I forgot to mention, is in Aquarius, tropical. So this is kind of scary to me because it can mean like socially people wanting to like defend their the boundaries of their group potentially. Mars with Neptune can be aggression, like almost like aggressive propaganda, right? Neptune is the media, it is the arts, and Mars is the planet of war. And so it's not hard to see how that can sometimes lead to aggressive idealization. It can be the archetype of the visionary too, because a lot of visionary painters actually have Mars conjunct Neptune in their natal chart, Alex Gray being one that comes to mind. But Mars with Neptune can be misplaced aggression. So I don't really like it for that. And this aspect goes exact on the 28th. So these are the major planetary aspects of the month. And as you can see, a lot of them are a little tense. I mean, they're all intense in that they're conjunctions, right? It's a blending of the two energies, but there's a lot of Mars energy going on, especially given their Mercury in Aries. People are irritable. You might have noticed, I've just noticed it at grocery stores, like people being shorter with me and not really wanting to help. And that's a big generalization because I've also met really kind people who do want to, you know, be a good energy. But for the most part, I've been feeling more of this misplaced aggression. And it makes sense. We're between eclipses. There's a lot of uncertainty in these windows. On April 23rd, I probably already mentioned this, but we have the full moon in Swati nakshatra. This is the nakshatra of the whirling winds. It's all about networking, connection, etc. All right, let's go over the days of intensity. I kind of talked about how April in general is intense, but these are the marked days of intensity, meaning we have squares of the moon with Pluto or moon squaring other malefics, etc. So April 5th, we've got moon with Mars and Saturn. Might be a day where again you feel more of that like irritability within people. On April 8th, we've got the Aries solar eclipse, conjunct Chiron and Venus. I put the little hazard there because eclipses are accident alerts. Again, as I kind of already talked about, when you're not conscious, they are periods that can have market effects. I mean, the Titanic happened during an eclipse. Someone I know lost a finger during an eclipse. There's lots of examples. People do pass with eclipses quite commonly because you could say it's like this alignment of the planets to bring souls to the other side in a way. But again, having the broadened perspective to know that even if you're in chaos during an eclipse, it might be planting or sowing seeds that are opening up another door. So it's not all doom and gloom. On April 9th, we've got Moon squaring Pluto, Mars conjunct Saturn. April 15th, we've got the Sun square Pluto and the Moon opposite Pluto. On the 23rd, the Moon squares Pluto. These moon hard aspects to Pluto can be what are called like blow-up days. It's where we have these very unconscious energies coming in a tense angle. So yeah, I call them kind of blow up days. On April 23rd, yeah, Moon square Pluto, I already mentioned that. Moon in conjunct Mars, and then Mars with Neptune. This could be a day of like misunderstandings and misplaced aggression is like kind of the best word for that. April 26th, we've got the moon squaring Mars and Saturn. This could be where any moon square Mars, like the 26th and 27th, really, it's like haste makes waste, right? Where there's a kind of impulsive energy where you're not being very careful. And again, even though Mercury goes direct technically on the 24th, there's what we call a post shadow. So the square of Moon to Neptune and being in a retrograde, Mercury being in a retrograde, there could be like errors of like attention or uh, yeah, like just like a sloppiness, I guess is the best way to describe it, that could lead, and a rushingness that could lead to just creating more problems or issues. So especially if you do something very technical that requires a lot of attention or hand-eye coordination, or like you measure anesthesia or something, just to give a very specific example, these would be days where it's like just pay extra care, extra attention. Okay, let's get into the fun stuff. These are the days of harmony. I really had to stretch it to find them in April. No, I'm just kidding. There's always days of harmony. On April 11th and 12th, we've got the moon on the 11th in Kritika Nakshatra, and then in the 12th, exalted in Rohini Nakshatra, trining Pluto and sextiling Venus. Moon in Rohini is good for anything with like, what's the word, like fertility, planting of literal like trees and seeds and that kind of stuff. So if you're starting your spring garden, that could be a really good day to do so. It's also good for commerce, but again, keep in mind it's Mercury retrograde. So ideally, if you're selling like a big, large thing, you would wait, right? You would wait. This could be a time to maybe reconsider or make different plans or reflect on some of your assets, perhaps, instead of maybe actually going through with the business deal, if that makes sense. On April 17th, we've got the moon in Ashlesha Nakshatra. That's the entwining one. It's a very sensual nakshatra. It's also a healing nakshatra. So good for administering medicine. But again, barring the Mercury retrograde. But April 17th, we've got this Ashlesha moon trining Venus and Rahu. Rahu's actually the head of the dragon, but it's also associated with herbs and alternative healing. And then we have the moon trining Venus. So not a bad day for a healing. Ashlesha is also, I put the wrecking ball there because Ashlesha is all about destruction. But destruction is not always bad. It's like, imagine if we're destroying a virus within us. In that context, destruction is actually a very positive thing. So the moon in Ashlesha is auspicious for these things. Anything that's like a very purposeful ending. So this April 17th is good for that. On April 18th, the moon in Purva Falguni trines Jupiter, the guru, the benefic planet of expansiveness, and Uranus, the planet of spontaneity. Purva Falguni is good for any sort of sexual or pleasure kind of seeking activities or creative activities. So if you've been withholding from sensuality on the eclipse on the 18th, you can have your free pass to go ahead and partake in that. I'm just kidding. You don't need permission to anything, but know that that's a good day. It's actually a great day, a great nakshatra for marriage, Purva Falguni, or any creative endeavors as well. That kind of those Mars-Venus energies, you could say. On April 20th, we've got the moon in Uttara Falguni trining Pluto, Mercury conjoining Venus. And Uttara Falguni is known for asking for favors from those in authority. It can be a good time to to try to get a promotion. Again, you know, Mercury had just kind of, it's just kind of ending its retrograde around this time, but you know, just keep that in mind. On April 29th, we've got the moon in Purvashada, trining the sun, Jupiter and Uranus trining. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. It's a Mercury retrograde typo. See, this is the perfect example. Ignore that last sentence. Basically, it got copied and pasted twice. So we've got the moon trining the sun, Jupiter, and Uranus. That's it. Purva Ashada is a nakshatra for beginnings, for setting out on an exploration, for putting oneself out there, for bringing things to a peaceful resolution, which is really helpful after this month. It's this is probably one of the best days of the whole month, honestly. It's a very adventurous day. It's a very good day for new beginnings. So after all of that retrograde and pause and just submitting to giving our power, you know, not giving our power away, but just relinquishing control, you could say, with eclipses. April 29th is a great day to kind of like push forward with what you feel conviction to do. It's a great nakshatra of leadership. Settling debts is also an auspicious activity for Purvashada. So I hope this was helpful and illuminating to you. I always try to include both the days of intensity and days of harmony in a very general sense so that you just know the pulse of the collective. If, however, you're curious about personal elections, like you have a personal goal and you want it to be a date to be selected based on your birth chart, your natal chart, and perhaps, or even perhaps the chart of your business, this is something that can be done. I also offered personal readings, not just of your natal chart to understand your gifts, your soul's path, etc., but to understand how transits are affecting you uniquely, because we are all at different cycles in our life and our journeys, and where the planets are in the sky impact each of our birth charts differently, right? Just like how if you have the eclipse happening at a very personal angle or planet in your chart, that's going to affect you more than a person that maybe the eclipse is just kind of transiting through an empty house in their chart. That's why not every eclipse is like super impactful for every person, but generally we can feel the tone of the collective is. And so that's the kind of idea behind my work. If you're curious to learn more, if you found this helpful, just like the video, subscribe, check out my website, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you for your patience and understanding with my slightly delayed April forecast. Have a beautiful rest of your day.